If you find a cool photo on the internet, something like this, and for some reason you want to turn it into this, well, I'm going to talk about how you can do that with the free drawing program, Krita. We're going to pick a new photo, and I'm going to talk you through the entire process. All right, so download the photo as a PNG or a JPEG and drag it into Krita. I have a shortcut. I just push S, but that activates this tool here called the transform tool. And with this tool, we can move our photo around. We can resize it. I think the size is fine. We're gonna probably crop this a bit later. So first step, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a blank layer on top of it. I'm gonna hit Control G, make a group. And then this first layer, I'm just gonna label it to keep it straight. I'm gonna write PIG. This is gonna be our erase layer. Now we don't actually have to erase anything. We're actually just gonna be drawing on it. I like to use blue, bright blue, just to kind of make it very clear. And I'm just gonna do a pretty rough outline around. And then I'm gonna use the fill tool. So I have the fill tool as a shortcut, letter F, I think that's standard, and fill the rest in. Okay, now we can go through and kind of more carefully do our outline. And what is on his head here? Oh, he's got like a weird sort of camera thing. Okay. If you look over here on the layers, we can see this thing that says opacity. I can turn that down to like 70% or whatever, and you can still see the blue, but you can also see like if you maybe need to go over or under anything to get a little sharper, clearer line there. Now it's really up to you as an artist how in depth you want to go and how perfect you want to make these lines. Just going around and around and around, and it's okay if you overlap a little bit. You hit E. Now your pen is now an eraser. Now you could do this with a mouse. I prefer using a drawing tablet. For me, it's better. With the drawing tablet, you can set up some shortcuts so I can zoom in and out. I can select colors, select brushes, without moving my eyes from the page, without having to reach for my mouse. So I've got my left hand on the keyboard. I've got my right hand on the pen. Okay, B is my brush. V is the line tool. Occasionally I just need to make a big long straight line. Zip tie cuffs. They're really great, especially for arresting journalists, because journalists like to travel in groups. And so if you're gonna beat and arrest one journalist, you gotta be ready to beat and arrest like some more journalists and then their lawyers, and it's a whole thing. So you want to be prepared to crush anyone who's using their so-called free speech. That's the way they do it. We have our big, strong hero with lots of weapons, with the full backing and authority of the state, who is being a very heroic hero by really laying it all on the line to protect and serve the fascist state. In fascist states, it's a precarious sort of situation. You can't have people like saying stuff and exposing your crimes and things like that. So it's very important to maintain control and bravely beating and terrorizing dangerous criminals like photojournalists. Okay, let's turn the opacity back up. How are we doing? I think this looks pretty good. There's maybe a few little nooks and crannies we could sort of get. By the way, if you hit G, you can isolate whatever layer you're looking at, right? So this is useful sometimes if you just want to see it alone. All right, so check it out. Over here, above the opacity, we see this thing. It says normal. So that means that this layer is just a normal paint layer. instead of normal, we're gonna change the blending mode to erase. So everything that was blue is now erasing anything under that layer in the same group. I'm gonna hit Control J, and we've just made a copy of that group. And I'm gonna hit Control E to mix it down. So now this is just a single flat layer. We don't have our blue anymore. All right, we're gonna hide that for now. So now we're still looking at the original picture. The original picture is still here, totally unaltered. Hit the plus sign, make another layer. We'll label this as danger. This dangerous woman who is clearly threatening the safety of this heroic piggy, and we're gonna start to outline her. Technically, when someone uses a camera, it's called shooting. We could say that she's threatening to shoot this dear, sweet, brave piggy, and that's the kind of thing that police are really afraid of. They have bulletproof vests, but you know what? Bulletproof vests don't prevent camera shots. And that's the really scary thing about journalists, is they're basically have free reign to just take any kind of picture. The beauty of working on different layers is that we're not actually destroying the original photo, so we can undo anything that we did do. You gotta look out for these dangerous photojournalists, because they do more than physical violence. They open their mouths and they talk shit, and some people could misunderstand how about when the piggies are doing stuff. It's none of your business what they're doing, really. If you're not a piggy, I don't understand why you're trying to stick your nose in their business. They're just doing their job. They're just following orders, okay? So when you're like going around taking pictures of them, exposing what they're doing to the rest of the public could get really confused, and they might think that they might get the wrong idea that the piggies are doing something bad, like that they're bad piggies, when we know that they're good piggies because they're so brave and they stand up not alone, but they get in big groups and big posses and their ranged weapons and their billy clubs, and they face the danger, right? This is danger that normal people have never had to worry about, right? Like, I've never had to go beat up a journalist because I know that the brave men and women of law enforcement are already gonna do that for me. And that's because the state is a monopoly on violence. And that is a fact that you must never, ever question, okay? On this channel, we do not debate, we do not question the authority of this state monopoly on violence, right? If they've got a badge, that's it. No questions, okay? And that's one of the problems of these photojournalists, these journalists. They start asking questions. They run their mouths, right? And like just freely speaking, big no-no. Big no-no, okay? That's not gonna fly in a fascist state. So remember, the fascist state has the monopoly on violence, and that is a fact we around here do not even debate. You may not question that. Do not question it. I sense some of you are actually like questioning that a little bit, and I have to advise you, you better shut up. Do you want a billy club to the face? Okay, didn't think so. So shut the fuck up. Do not question the legitimacy of this state violence, okay? These journalists running their mouth and encouraging other people to see the stuff that they take pictures of, and they're gonna think that you can say that and question it. Big no-no, okay? The public order is a very fragile hierarchy, and it must constantly be maintained. If I start saying stuff like, oh, what authority do they have? Or like, oh, they're breaking their own rules, or it's against the Constitution. First of all, I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I can't say anything about that. I have no authority to say if something breaks the Constitution or if something's illegal, all right? What I have to do is shut my mouth and salute these brave piggies for the work that they do. All right, how's it looking? All right, pretty good. Missed a little spot here. So now we've got our two figures. We're gonna go Control J. We're gonna change this to an erase layer, and Control E, mix it down. All right, so we've got this group, which is our original photo. We've got this, which is the isolated cutout version of our two subjects, and that's gonna be about it. All right, it's raining pretty hard. It's kind of loud. I'm gonna shut the door. All right, so I'm gonna take this, right click on this and go to add, go to filter mask. Now filter masks, pretty powerful tool here. We have a lot of different kind of filter masks. The one I'm gonna look for is in the first category called adjust, and we're gonna go all the way down to the bottom. The last one is called threshold. Now you can kind of move this to the side so you can see the image here. And you see what threshold does is it kind of takes any value, any pixel that's above a certain threshold, it'll turn it white. And anything below a certain threshold, it'll turn it black. Now 128 is the middle-ish, and it kind of can depend on the photo itself. If I roll it up to, say, 220, I'm only gonna have these little spots of white that are just sort of the highlights, right? And all the way down here, we'll just get these little areas of black. So this is where your artistic decisions have to be made. How many different layers do you want? You could make this super simple, get one layer of just the darkest portions, say like here at 69, 70-ish. You could go back up to 128 in the middle, grab those middle tones, go another little bit up to, you know, really you just use your eyes and decide like how many layers you want. So we can make some that looks pretty basic. Let's try this. We're gonna go, the lowest will go, say 50. New layer. We're not gonna change this layer at all. We're just using it as a reference. All right. Now I'm gonna go up to this tool here. It's called the color select tool. Basically, once you have this selected, you click on black, and it's gonna select all the black pixels. All right. These are now selected. Choose a color. It's gonna be red, but it's gonna be so dark that it's pretty much black. We'll start there. All right, so now I've got my new blank layer, I've got my color selected, and I'm just gonna color in those super dark areas with my chosen dark color, right? And so we can already start to see a little bit of a outline of the figure. All right, let's go back, go to our filter mask, right click, go to properties, or you can hit F3, and let's take it up. So we did 50, let's just do the 128 right in the middle, and we'll see. We might do another one in between those two, but for now, let's go 128. And again, color picker, we're gonna do just hit the black ones. And then I'm gonna make another new layer, and this is gonna go under our first layer. So you can kind of do this different ways. The way I like to do it is I make a little dark area. The next layer is all of the same plus a little more, right? So we're gonna take and this is why I like artistic color selector, because we're not gonna change the hue or the saturation. We're just gonna move it up 2 notches. 1, 2, no, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 notches up. And just color all of those selected lines. And then when we see them with the black, so the darker layer is on top, the lighter layer is on the bottom, is underneath that. And we're gonna do it again. We're gonna choose an even lighter color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe drop the saturation a little bit. And let's go here. And we're gonna take the threshold up even more. Okay, 192. Yeah, that's pretty good. You can start to see the tattoo work on the leg there. Isolate that layer. Select all the black pixels. And this is cool. You don't have to, worry about coloring in the wrong place, because if you use the select tool, you're only grabbing those pixels that were selected, right? So now I've got this layer, and then with the others on top, we have the lighter layer and the darkest here. So it goes from dark to light. All right, let's do another layer. We'll keep going. We have properties. So we did 193. Probably now I'll do like pretty much the penultimate one. So we're gonna cover all the rest except for what we want to be like our highest highlights. So usually I like to have that just be a few little spots on the face, not the whole face. 228, let's try it. So 228, isolate that, select the black ones. Go back to your, we need a lighter color. Let's go about there. You can also adjust all these colors afterwards. Like if we went too light on one layer, or we went too dark, or we want to change the, whatever. All right, so that's my penultimate layer. My final layer, you can kind of go a little quicker. Just choose the color and then just hit all, just go underneath it. You can sort of freehand this part and just get all the white pixels. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 layers from black to pinkish peach and, you know, 3 layers in between. Now you could go and move that little slider a little bit less, right? We went from 50 to 128, right? What if we picked like a 84 and we'll slip that in between. So hold on, what's this color is about here. Let's pick something that's like a little bit darker, but not quite as dark as our first one. And let's see what that does for us. We're gonna add just an extra layer here. Did that make really any difference? We're gonna add a filter mask. And this time, instead of threshold, we're gonna go up to this one, HSV/HSL adjustment. Hold on, we're in isolate mode. Okay, so as it's not on isolated mode, okay. Add a filter mask. All right. So, dark light, we can slide this up and down. Obviously that's too light, it's lighter than the lighter color. And then like this would be too dark, it's darker than the other color. But kind of just slide it around until see if it needs to adjust. I felt like it was maybe a little too dark. Could have gone a little lighter. Group 9 is here. This is just made up of our layers that we drew from the references, right? We're going to keep this as separate layers because we could make little micro adjustments. Every little color value we have there, we can change that, we can adjust that. So now we're going to do the same thing with the other subject of the photo here. So how do we do this? We right click, we add a filter mask, we do threshold, and we look at it, we explore. What are the darkest areas? What do we want to be the black dark? At what level? So on our previous photo, we started at 50. I think for this guy, we might. I usually like to do the darkest, like as soon as you can sort of make out the basic details and shadow places. About here, 25. Okay. And they might be different for each subject. It depends on kind of like what you want to capture and how you want it to look, right? You can give it like a wider gamut of color, of color values. You can give it less and have it look like, you know, a little more like just like stencils. All right, so we're doing that. We're gonna go this kind of, let's go even darker. Let's go black. Pretty much black, right? deselect that. Go back to our photo, go back to our filter mask, and let's crank this up from 25 to, say, 60. I like 60. Reveal a few more details. We see more of the cop's flare. Isolate that, color select only the black pixels. Go to our new layer. Select a slightly brighter color. And color the whole thing in. Okay, not bad. So we get that faint outline, and we got this, and then when we put them together, we get some of that cool stuff that he wears on his tool belt. I think that's a pistol. All right. So our layers from top to bottom are like this. Boom, boom. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then our 6th layer will just be a full silhouette like that. All right, so again, I'm kind of picking these color values sort of by instinct. You can be more methodical about it, where you grab like specific numbers and specific gaps. So for here, again, we're probably going to adjust some stuff. Let's group all these together. This is the piggy group, and we have our dangerous terrorist criminal. Right there. Okay, now what? You can do a lot of different things from here. For example, maybe you want to put a halo of shame around this criminal, right? So they know that they're being bad. And, you know, you might want to give this a sort of gray aura of triumph around this brave piggy, right? There's different things you can do, and you can just grab any layers. So we're free to do whatever we want with their background, pick different brushes, do different textures, whatever. It's you are the artist. You choose whatever kind of coloration and things like that. This is where most of the time is spent on these. It's making these kind of decisions as to what colors, you know. You got cold colors, cool, and you got warm, hot colors, and you can decide however you want to do that. Another thing I like to do is give the background a little texture, right? One way you can do that is with these sort of brushes here, these mountain brushes that are kind of cool. They automatically give it a sort of texture. Or you could just do like a blank color, a solid color, and then do a little thing like this. Let's make it kind of pinkish, right? So say whatever, you got a pink kind of color down here. I'm gonna hold Control and Shift and G, and this automatically makes like a mask layer that clips on the top. I'm gonna go to normal, and I'm gonna change normal to overlay on this mask layer. I'm gonna hit F to have my fill tool, and on the tool options, I'm going to change my fill source. Instead of the paint, I want it to do this thing, which will mean that it will fill with a pattern. Now I've got a lot of patterns saved. There's a few good ones that it comes stock, but you can also basically find any kind of photo and make it into a texture to go behind stuff, right? So this is just like a rough paper texture. In my fill, you can change kind of the scale or the size of it, and you apply it to this mask layer, and it gives a little texture to it. So it kind of has that paper looking look to it. Now you might scale it up. What happens if it's like 250%? Yeah, it's subtle, but it kind of just breaks up that background a little bit. You can try different textures. This is kind of a grass looking one. Let's see what that looks like. I don't know. You can just experiment. You can hide one layer and make a new layer. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Now, up here you have your crop tool. You can crop things to kind of capture the action, center it. All right, and then just take your time, look at it. From here, you can play around with the colors, whatever you want to do in terms of background, and mess around with it. Add a filter mask and adjust the saturation, adjust the hue. You can, maybe a different color than what you chose was actually seems to pop a little harder, right? I might kind of like that red. You can make it extra saturated if you want. You can make it a little gray and drab if you want. I don't know. There's no right or wrong answers with this. You can make it all dark. You can make it look like clouds. Maybe they're on clouds. Maybe they're in a dark, dank street. I kind of digging this darker, highest saturation, but relatively dark. Kind of gives it this like interesting feel to it. So anyway, that's how to do it. Hope you enjoyed watching and have fun on your artistic adventures. Don't let them get ya.